pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God for the pledge. Lord, we like to come into your presence tonight and just ask that your wisdom and your thoughts be with us and helping us to make decisions that are wise and prudent for the community. And that you would help us to listen with an eager ear to those that would like to come and speak tonight. That you would help to weigh all these decisions out and make decisions that are best for this community. We ask these things in Jesus' name. All right, has everybody had an opportunity to look at the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Second. Discussion. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Carries. All right, we'll move on to citizens' comments. If you've got something you'd like to address the council for, now's the time. Give you 3 minutes to state what you'd like to speak to us about. And try not to be real repetitive with someone who's come on before you. We will give you 3 minutes, and then we will let somebody else get up and speak that would like to come and speak. So whoever would like to start the citizens' comments, you may come forward and state your name, address, and what your concern is.
I'm Rivera, City Council. Just to address the crowd real quick. A lot of people here are from the Planning Commission. We're at the Planning Commission meeting. At the Planning Commission meeting, we had an open hearing. There's no open hearing tonight. So if you do have any comments about any of the agenda items, any rezoning or anything, now would be the time to talk. And we do have a sign up for your name and your address, first and last name, please. So this would be your time, 3 minutes, first, last name, and address. So feel free to line up and do a queue. After citizens' comments are done, there's no dialogue between the citizens and the city council. So this would be your time to speak on any agenda item you have. All right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Denise Hyde. My address is 2300 South Leo Street. And I'm talking about the duplexes that are adjacent to the property. Sedgwick County is a unique county. With Coke, Textron Aviation, Spirit, and other companies, you have a lot of people relocating here. Some from the smaller cities. I moved here 26 years ago from a city with a population of 50,000. Towns like Goddard, Mays, and Andover appeal to people like me that come from smaller cities. I don't understand why Goddard wants this many duplexes. Too many rental properties will turn away the citizens I believe you would like to have. I like progress. I would like to see Goddard grow and have more shops and restaurants. I feel you could accomplish this and still have values we cherish for Goddard. In December 12th zone meeting, one of them asked if any of us goes to the Sedgwick County meetings. You're right, none of us probably do. I realize I need to do more, get more involved. I would like to do whatever is needed for our community. I am very green in this area and would appreciate any advice or direction you can give me. It's time for me to step up. Please keep this property as R1. Families dream of owning their own home. Some families dream come true on this property. Thank you for your time.
I was just here to discuss item number 4, which I think is the 167th and 23rd South duplexes. I just don't see
Could you state your name and address?
I'm sorry, yeah, I wrote it down. My name is Mitch Tibbs. Address is 2520 Leo Circle. I'm just here to address the fact that there's a lot of, I don't think the duplexes and a lot of the rentals, and especially that large of a section, is going to be a good thing for Goddard. I mean, you get a quick lot of money and taxes, but I think they're going to be run down quick, bring the wrong kind of image to the city. You know, the planning commission has, I think, voted it down, or went that way. So I just hope you respect that, and the city can do a lot better than this. There's some beautiful housing additions coming in around here. One right by the high school, driving in here, just gorgeous. But this is not the image of the city I think we should have. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Sheila Tibbs. I live at 2520 Leo Circle. And I wrote a little something for you. You four tonight will decide the future of Goddard. All of you need to know that the decision you make, either to make Goddard a place where people want to move, or make it a place where people don't want to move and they'll move somewhere else. And the duplexes are going to make it where they don't want to move to. I can guarantee you that. One scenario, other than going with the duplexes, would be to keep the place single-family zoning. Build about 168 houses, similar to the ones that Marvin Schellenberg has built by the high school. These families will be an asset to Goddard. They will raise possibly generations of families, maybe start a business, pay higher taxes, and the neighborhoods will only get better every year, opposed to the duplexes where they will run down in 4 years and no one will like them. Goddard will be known as a clean, safe, and upstanding community. It's a win-win for Goddard. The developers still will make a lot of money. If that wasn't true, I promise you, Marvin Schellenberg would have not started those houses over there. I know you want a certain percentage of renters, but keep this as low as possible. People who own their own property are proud to say this is my home. People who own their own property bring stability and pride to a community. Build single-family homes and you'll see they will sell and they will bring the money and the revenue that all of you want.
Chris Simons, my address 17,900 West Highview. I just want to be in opposition to number 4 also. I see no reason to have 200 units in the 80 acres that you guys are proposing, that the developer's proposing to do there. To me, it's all about money. It's the single family, of course, will make money. The duplexes, they make more. That's why the developers do it. I myself, being a landlord, have toyed with the idea of building some duplexes, and it's all about cramming as many as you can cram into the smallest area you can cram it. And that's why they do it. It's about money. I don't believe there's very many people in that neighborhood or the rest of Goddard that wants 200 rentals in 80 acres. Single family, fine. Duplexes, no.
Hi, my name is Jeff Tibbetts. I live at 2210 South Leo, Goddard. I'm in here in opposition of number 4, like everybody else. I count 189 homes, but 200, it's all about money, and it's not good for our neighborhood. Ours specifically, Goddard as a whole. I know 20 years ago, if I moved in here and saw that, I wouldn't do it. I also noticed on 135th, those duplexes there now have for rent signs. They're not even done building them, and they haven't filled them up. So now we're going to add more. Doesn't make a lot of sense, humbly. The roads can't handle it. People go through our subdivision like a bat out of hell, and they have went down through my ditch multiple times. Why one hasn't rolled and killed somebody? Not really sure. But they're going around the intersection. I don't believe it's been thought out. It's all about money, and I oppose this. And please, single-family homes, let's do it. Thank you.
Hello. Well, I vote for single-family
Name
homes.
and address, please.
I am Sherry Breckenridge. I am 2341 South Leo Street. I am north there of Pawnee. I'm on the first house as you come in there on the left. And I see that high school traffic come down through that road all the time. I see they look ahead and they see a flashing red stop sign that's up there at 183rd and Pawnee. And they tend to, if there's so much traffic backed up, they cut through my street at Leo Street. And like that guy said earlier, they fly through there. And as you know, that's not a paved road. It's a dirt, sandy road, and the dust is flying. Kids can't see what's in front of them. And I fear for accidents that could happen in that street. So what they do is they go all the way through, and then it becomes Highland. Then they can come out at 183rd, and they can head back south till they get to Pawnee, and then there's nothing for them to stop. So then they don't have to wait at Pawnee and 183rd to get onto the high school. So if we build 189 duplexes, and you figure each family's probably going to have 2 cars. We're going to double that in traffic, and that road is going to be a nightmare. And there are going to be kids flying through there, and I never see the sheriff go through there. Never have I once seen the sheriff. Yeah, I see him go up and down Pawnee, but does anybody cut through that area? No. So my concerns is the traffic, the safety, there's a hill there too, and I can just see accidents happening. And I fear for our street and the way an accident's waiting to happen. So that's what I think.
Thank you.
What name would you have something?
What do we let the folks finish up?
My name is Pat Brady. I live at 420 North David in Wichita. But my family is Brady Nursery, and we own the corner section directly across from the development number 4. And we've had it for about 30 years, and it's been a great property for tree growing and other things. The main reason that I'm going to be opposed to this, and we spoke with the zoning board a few weeks ago, was just the extensive amount of traffic that is going to be put on the 167th and Pawnee. And as I mentioned, it's kind of a catch-22 because the city of Goddard and the county wants to increase their tax revenue and tax basis and work with the developers, but they don't have the infrastructure and the roads to handle the traffic. So it's like, well, if we get all the tax money, then we can build the roads. So I think you kind of get the cart in front of the horse when you do this. And with the deep ditches the way they are now, I mean, it's pretty dangerous. And you gotta really be careful when you're driving, as the people on Leo and Pawnee and 23rd, you know, you gotta be really careful because kids are kids and they like to drive fast and it's just not built for it. There's no shoulders, so pretty dangerous. And the more people, the more kids, the more traffic, cars, it's just a real problem, safety issue. So I hope that you will see your way clear to voting against it. Thank you.
I am so sorry. All right, my name, as I said, I'm Sarah Ming, 2250 Leo Street, Goddard, Kansas, 67052. I'm one of the people within 1,000 feet of, I'm speaking out in opposition to number 4. Changing from R1 to R2 makes no sense, and we put in opposition petitions because we wanted to put it on record that we basically called in and asked about the due process, and were informed that it worked a certain way, and so we want to follow that. And we wanted to make sure that you knew, but we were on a very short timeline because we didn't find out about that until last minute. So I think you received, you needed 20% from our community around this property, and we were able to turn in 33% in less than a day and a half. And if we'd have been able to reach everyone else on that list, everyone we did reach said yes. We just didn't attempt to reach everyone, if that makes sense. So the number of opposition petitions would have been higher had there been more time for people to know what their options were and how to turn those in. And we were asked to turn them in all together. So organizing that is the only limitation on the number that you received. So, and we appreciate all of your time and energy listening to all of us talk about this issue, because the greater good of Goddard is really what we are extremely interested in. It's not just about our neighborhood, it's about our community, and we are part of this community, and we want to see it grow and prosper long-term. So long-term vision is what we're after and what we want to support, and we appreciate all of you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak?
Howdy, I'm Stephen Brady from Brady Nursery, and as my father said, our farm is at 2226 South 167th, just east of where this proposal is going in. And from our direct impact, I'm extremely concerned with the amount of families that are going to be moving in there. You guys probably don't know a lot about tree production, but it takes a long time to grow a quality specimen, good tree. And when I think about having 360 some families move in there, I think about having that many more young kids that will be trespassing onto our farm and damaging our crops, our infrastructure, our irrigation. It's caused me a lot of sleepless nights thinking about how can I combat that, how many tens, 20s, 50s, thousands of dollars I'm going to have to spend to put up a fence, because I foresee our west hedgerow probably getting taken out to widen the road at some point, and our hedgerows are what really made us want to buy that property, because as you know, the wind blows like crazy here, and our property, how it's set up now, is ideal for tree production because we have shelter belts quartered all throughout our property, and I'm envisioning that main west shelter belt getting taken out, and that's going to be a really bad thing for us. Obviously, this duplex neighborhood isn't going to change, the road being widened at some point, but I just wanted to put that in y'all's ears. Another thing I've been thinking about a lot is just the property value impact on the neighboring properties, our property included, but all of the nice homes on Leo Street. It seems like it's a pretty big gap in class, so to speak, with these really nice homes on big lots. And slamming in this duplex neighborhood here, I don't think is going to do anything beneficial to the surrounding properties. And I mean, not that life's fair, but I don't think it's fair for these folks that have put their life into these homes to have their property value potential be undercut from them. So those are a few of my thoughts, and I hope you guys make a good call on this, because there'll be bad impact. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, we will close citizens' comments. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Everyone have a chance to look at the consent agenda?
Motion that we approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Go ahead, Sarah, if you want to speak, I'll let you have the floor.
One thing I was going to say, everybody's concerns about traffic is very valid. I have a 20-year-old, or almost 20-year-old. I get it. He doesn't drive how I want him to. Kids in my neighborhood don't drive how I want them to. I actually came to the council trying to get neighborhood speeds reduced, because as my neighborhood built up, which I live in St. Andrews, I was like the 9th house to build in there. We have over 300 houses in there, and it's ridiculous. And when I came and complained, we got more patrols. So my suggestion to you guys, talk to the county, hammer the county, send them emails, call, ask for traffic patrols, ask for support out there, ask for lights to be put in. 183rd and Kellogg didn't even have a light in when I built my house. It was a stop sign. So sadly, as one of you stated, it does take houses being built and the tax base to be there before the roads can be updated. But, and this is gonna be me being snarky, the more Karens that harass the county, the more action's gonna get taken. So that's my advice to you guys. We can only control so much of that area because it is not ours. But, you know, like one of you stated about going to the county meetings, go to the county meetings. Just like come to us, you know, come to us and we will listen to you and help how we can. And I would hope the county would do the same for you guys. So that's all I wanted to say, is that did not fall on deaf ears, trust me. I'm that angry Karen standing there, slow down, at the kids. So that's all I got.
I'd like to just possibly address the things that I see happening. I'm on the council and as mayor twice now, and been over 20-some years on council, and watched the city grow from 1,800 on up past 5,000. And what I see happening is if you look on 167th Street, Wichita is already hit 167th Street. And they're going north and they're going south. Now, the only chance we have of trying to keep Goddard somewhat safe as far as Wichita surrounding us and going around us is to allow some type of development. Now, all we can do is hope to try to control what type of development we have. If they get far enough south on 167th, they could possibly move in right. If we chose not to do this, they could possibly move in and take that. And then you would have to deal with Wichita instead of us. So I'm just telling you how things could happen, because they're not far off and they could make it happen swallowing a section at a time. So we have to try to be positive in things that we're doing and try to meet both parties, developers and people. I've pretty well thought I've made it known that if a development comes in, I just wanted a percentage of duplexes and not the whole thing duplexes. And what that percentage is, I don't know. In my own head, I've figured 30% duplexes, maybe 20% townhomes, and the rest single family. And all the duplexes be put in the center of the single family to where it shelters the surrounding area from the duplexes, and that way you wouldn't have an entire area of nothing but duplexes. I don't know how some of you feel about that, but I don't know any way of getting around that without taking the risk of the developer deciding, well, he wants to be part of Wichita instead of Goddard and doing the same thing, only this time you have no say. And so hopefully you'll be understanding if we try to work something out to where something like that would take place rather than all duplexes. I don't know. It's up to the council, it's not my call. But we can always send it back to the planning commission and say this is what we would like to see and this is what we think the comprehensive plan reads. Will you reconsider that? I'm sympathetic with you, but I also know how things work. And I'd hate to see that happen to us and to you, and you not have a voice. So I don't know if any of the council would like to say anything on this matter or not.
A few things. Sheila,
Yes.
you mentioned the Marv Schellenberg deal, and I grew up with some of your guys' kids, and I've known several of you for a very, very long time. And I hear your concerns. Now, I'm speaking from my opinion, no one else is on the council, but I love Goddard, and Goddard must grow. Now, how it grows is the debate we're talking about, of course. But if we don't grow, the city of Wichita will do the work for us. So we have to step up to the plate and do what we have to do to grow as a city. Now, the Marv deal in particular, it was helped by a lift station. The city of Goddard took on a large amount of debt to help pay for that lift station. So that particular development got assistance. This development in particular is not getting any assistance that I'm aware of. Am I correct? So as far as the particulars, how they can fit less lots into that development, and they have to cram more lots into this development, it's because they're spreading those specials out amongst several more lots. So it's a numbers game. They're not getting any help, which I'm not saying is a good thing, bad thing, or indifferent. It's just the reality of the situation. Traffic, I'll tag on to something that Sarah did say. I did speak to Commissioner Dennis about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and the county did do a traffic study on 183rd and Pawn 8. And it didn't have enough volume to put in a light. So if the volume there isn't going other places, it's probably, they're not going to do much, to be honest with you. So it's very important that we do hound on the county to get things done. The value of the property homes, Micah could probably speak on that. Do duplexes, or do they typically, the new duplexes now, do they bring down property values?
I can address it a little bit more in depth during the agenda item, but the city doesn't do appraisals, so we don't appraise properties. That's the county. The county takes that into account. It's kind of a long answer. So I don't know how much you guys want to get in the weeds on that, but basically an appraisal from the county's perspective, the county appraises it 3 different ways. They look at your property. If they were to tear it down and build it back up with today's value, with today's material, what would that cost be? And then they look at your property in relationship to other comparable properties. And if you have a county property, they're going to look at the other county properties that are similar in terms of the architectural, the square footage, if it's got a view out versus a walkout. There's different elements there, and they look at that and a comparable value. And then they also do a multi-regression analysis, which, I mean, we can talk about that a little bit. Basically, it's just different factors to determine if that value is impacting it, and that usually has to do with the square footage, number of bedrooms and number of bathrooms. But they typically look at what's called a neighborhood code. So every time a development goes in, they have a neighborhood code, and that's for that development. And they don't typically look outside of that development. They're not gonna look at a county house and say, we're gonna look in an urban development to see if we can find comparable properties to make a determination off of. And so I've talked to the county about that multiple times, and they just don't jump across from an urban property to a rural property or vice versa for making comparable analysis. And there isn't anything that they have in their analytics. The county doesn't have anything in their analytics for looking out across urban scale properties for pulling information to make a determination on property value. So that being said, I can't speak definitively on property value, but according to the county, based on the metrics that they provide and based on the information that I've been given, they don't look at duplexes to make a determination of property value. Property value is different than what you would look at for marketability. So your appraised value is not the same as the marketability of your property. So there might be what you would say, your property's value is not going to be dictated based on the proximity to duplexes, but someone may look at your property and say, you don't want to buy it because of its proximity to a duplex, but they may or they may not, and that's just speculative because that varies depending on the individual. So that's, sorry, that was kind of long. There's a lot of factors that goes into valuation.
I will bring up one more point, and it goes back to what Larry says, the city of Wichita will grow in. You just look north of Kellogg on Colwich Road, and you have right south of Eisenhower High School, you have another large duplex development going in. The city of Wichita will beat us in the growth game. They have the money to, and they have the resources to. So, thank you, man.
Do we have anybody from the developers here that would like to speak?
Mr. Mayor, I might recommend waiting until the agenda item for the developer to speak on anything.
Okay, we'll move on to H1.
Can we, hey Mayor,
We need to do
can we go back to E1?
E1? Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's fine, Trent.
I hate to cut into the tenseness of the room. So it's my pleasure tonight to introduce a new member to the City of Goddard and the Goddard Police Department. Thanks. Christopher Poirier. Christopher Poirier was hired under the Goddard Police Department as a detective on December 12th, 2022. And Christopher has over 20 years involved in law enforcement, including 16 years employed with the Derby Police Department. Prior to being hired to Derby PD at the age of 21, Christopher served as a police explorer for 5 years. Christopher brings a wealth of knowledge, training, and experience to our agency. So as a little official act, we will do his official swearing of oath. So let me have you stand up here. If you wanted to turn around and look at that, that might help you to remember it under the, okay. All right, cool. I, Christopher Poirier,
I, Christopher Poirier,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and faithfully discharge the duties
and faithfully discharge the duties
of a duly sworn City of Goddard police officer.
of a duly sworn City of Goddard police officer,
So help me God.
so help me God.
All right, congratulations. And to do the honors of normally a uniformed officer will be have a badge pinned on them. He's a detective, so I figured it would be appropriate for a detective badge to be hung on him. I'll ask his wife if she is willing to do that,
Sure.
to don him with his badge. And that is all I have.
Right, you're welcome on board.
Thank you.
Okay, now let's see if I can read here. Move on to H1. 183rd and US 54 rezoning.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, excuse me, this is item H1. This is the Ben Healy rezoning from R1 to PUD, which is Planned Unit Development, case number zone 22-4. Quick background. Baughman Company has submitted an application on behalf of the developer Ben Healy for rezoning 2 parcels of land from R1 single family to PUD, which is Planned Unit Development. The land is located on the east side of 183rd, just across the street from Walmart, north of Prairie Traveler Trail and south of US 54. The land is around 53 plus minus acres and is intended to be developed into a mix of commercial and residential uses, including but not limited to apartments, commercial retail, commercial restaurants, townhomes, patio homes, and outdoor space. A PUD request is treated as a rezoning request and requires public notice in 20 days to lapse prior to consideration before the Planning Commission. PUD is essentially a custom zoning classification, and a final PUD layout map will be needed to be submitted before it can be finalized. The Planning Commission unanimously approved the rezoning request on December 12, 2022. So just kind of a quick review. There's 4 parts to a PUD: a review and a preliminary layout, plating, preliminary, final plat, and a final PUD layout map. These can all be taken in one turn or multiple steps, however the developer feels led. This is section 100H.1 7 through 17. These are the golden rules as they're typically known, which is 17 parts to be considered for rezoning. Black is the questions, purple is the answers by city staff being myself. Feel free to interrupt me at any time if you guys have questions about any of this. But number 1, what are the existing uses and their character and condition on subject property and the surrounding neighborhood? Subject property is classified as both farming such ranch operation with improvements, and surrounding land on the subject property is farming ranch land with no improvements. The land use to the east is farming ranch land, no improvements. To the south, the land use is walking bike trail owned by Prairie Travelers. Incorporating further south is development called Marie Meadows with single-family residence, detached housing. To the west, land use is department store, warehouse club, superstore, Walmart, and farming ranch land, no improvements, which is part of the Goddard Galleria undeveloped area. To the north is farm and ranch operations with improvements and a single-family residence detached. What is the current zoning of the subject property and that of the surrounding neighborhood with relation to the request? The land is currently zoned R1, it's been annexed, so it defaults to R1, single-family detached, which is default zoning. To the east, the zoning is C2, General Business District, and I1 Industrial District. To the south, the zoning is Rural Residential. To the west, the zoning is C2, General Business District. To the north, the land is zoned Rural Residential. Is the length of time the subject property has remained undeveloped vacant as zone a factor in consideration? I think no. The land was county until very recently. We only annexed it very recently, so we don't have any regulation over the county, so that's why there had been no development prior. And the city had no formal regulation authority over it. Would the request correct and error in the applications of these regulations? Basically, this would mean that has there already been a land use approved and does it not conform with the zoning, and would the rezoning help correct that error? No, not in this case. Is the request caused by change or change conditions in the area subject property, and if so, what is the nature or significance of such change or change in conditions? Yes, the City of Goddard, as everyone is aware, which has been spoken about, the City of Goddard is experiencing growth, both residentially and commercially, and this is a continuation of that growth. The adequate sewer disposal and water supply and all the necessary public facilities, including street access, exist or can be provided to serve uses that would be permitted on subject property. Yes, petitions for specials, which is the traditional process, would go through for introducing all the necessary improvements for the development. The budding arterial road 183rd is paved, and the sewer and water that serves Walmart is in close proximity. Would a subject property need to be platted or replatted, or in lieu of dedication made for right-of-way easements and access control or building setback lines? So yes, the land is unplatted and would go through the platting process for necessary dedications, reserves, easements, and engineering review. Would a screening plan be necessary for existing or potential uses on subject property? Yes. Screening to the south may be necessary if commercial uses are introduced in that area, and if Planning Commission felt that the Doubletree Row, or City Council felt that the Doubletree Row was insufficient. Screening would also have to be introduced on the northwest portion to screen a home with the north of the commercials introduced abutting that place of the property. So anytime there's multifamily, which are 3 units or more, or commercial, and it's abutting residential, you have to screen it. And so that screening can take on multiple different forms, one of them not including being tree rows, shrubs, or things of that nature, as long as it's considered somewhat impervious in terms of that it actually blocks the view. Is suitable vacant land or buildings available or not available for development currently has the same zoning as is requested? No, the existing PUD land, which is vacant, currently has already been designated for other uses, including Tanganyika Wildlife Park Extension and Double State Second Edition. 10, if the request is for the business of industrial uses, are such uses needed to provide more services and employment opportunities? So commercial uses typically do bring in more job opportunities, so this would be potentially bringing more job opportunities. Though it should be noted that commercial retail and restaurants do not typically bring in higher wage job opportunities in the same vein as industrial, but this is in proximity for commercial, so this is kind of something just to be taken into account. Is the subject property suitable for the uses in the current zoning to which it has been restricted? No, the zoning was zoning classification for a county, and then when we annexed it, it defaults to R1. R1 is highly exclusive. You can't have commercial in an R1. To what extent would the removal of the restrictions, i.e. the approval of the zoning request, detrimentally affect other property in the neighborhood? So city staff reviewed the Seasons residential neighborhood, which is abutting the Tanganyika Wildlife Park, which is zoned PUD. It has mixed uses, particularly animal habitation, to see if there's any impact on the appraised value from 2009 when Tanganyika Wildlife Park had the greatest appraisal valuation due to construction. Properties in Seasons were measured from the center of the lot to the center of the Tanganyika Wildlife Park and rank ordered by distance. Distance was compared to the improved value of the properties in the regression analysis to determine that the distance from Tanganyika Wildlife Park affected the value. The p-value showed by the distance from Tanganyika Wildlife Park was statistically significant, but the r-squared value was low at 1.3%, showing higher variability. All that means is that basically we took all the properties in the season and we compared them by distance to Tanganyika to see if there's a statistically significant impact on the appraised value. And it showed it was statistically significant, but the variability was so great that it showed that there might have been some other factor impacting it, and it actually showed that the closer a house got to Tanganyika, the value actually went up. And so what that means typically is that when you have such a large variability in the houses, if they get closer to Tanganyika, actually increased in value, chances are that it's actually something else that's impacting the value, driving it up. And if you look at the Seasons, you notice that the properties that were built first were the ones that were actually further away from Tanganyika, and the ones that were built last were generally going to be higher value, were built closer to Tanganyika. So actually, when you look at that and in consideration, chances are that there's no impact of Tanganyika on the value of the properties as a PUD. And it's actually the year that the house was built that's actually driving the value predominantly. So it should be mentioned every foot further away from the point of Tanganyika reference was a loss of $3.37. So the further away you got from Tanganyika, apparently rhinos just increased property value. So 13, would the request be consistent with the purpose of zoning district classification and intent and purpose of these regulations? So I'm not going to read through all of this. This is Article 4.107. I will mention that staff believes the development is conformance with zoning district purpose. Article 1.101 purpose, so this is the overall, you notice it says Article 1.101, that's at the very beginning of the subdivision regulations. This outlines what are the purpose of the subdivision regulations, and staff believes that this development is in conformance with the intent and purpose of the subdivision regulations as laid out here. I'll leave that up for a second. If you have any questions about any of that, feel free to ask. 14, is the request in conformance with the comprehensive plan, and does it further enhance the implementation of the plan? So we adopted a comprehensive plan in 2015. A comprehensive plan needs to be updated every 5 years or so. But the comprehensive plan are like guidelines. We reference it, and it can have impacts on zoning, and it can be taken into account at the state level for the state Supreme Court or even the district court. They'll look at the comprehensive plan if there is, if there's sort of a combative nature when it comes to zoning. If there's any kind of questions about projects and developments, they'll be looking at the comprehensive plan. So even though it does act as a guideline, it can be used as a reference as well for state law. But our comprehensive plan, as drafted in 2015, outlined different ideals and goals. And so they're listed over here, page 16 of the comprehensive plan. One of them being the goal to promote continued residential development to enlarge the tax base and strengthen municipal capacity to provide quality public facilities. Work with area developers to initiate new neighborhoods through the plan unit development process. So it's pretty well laid out in the comprehensive plan that we want to try to introduce more PUDs, plan unit developments, into the city. 15, what is the nature and support or opposition to the request? So this is kind of generally what we see typically for rezonings. The general support comes with a desire to increase the tax base for the city with both residential and commercial buildings, which is in line with the comprehensive plan. And then general opposition comes in a desire for the city to stay relatively unchanged in its land use composition of single-family detached housing and larger lots. 16, is there any information or are there any recommendations on this request available from professional persons or persons with related expertise that will be helpful in the evaluation? So I have a lot of colleagues, so I reach out to them on occasion to harass them. Brian Jackson is a senior and in the program that I was at UMKC, and so I spoke with him. He's over at Overland Park, Kansas, and he mentioned that PUDs can be considered a trade-off between the city and the developer, and that it's not unreasonable for the city to ask for any additional provisions during the PUD process if we wanted to see something more reflective of the comprehensive plan. For example, larger sidewalk widths or buildings that were abutting the street closer to kind of engage the pedestrian process. Because as mentioned, a PUD is sort of a give and take, and it's a custom zoning classification. So 17, by comparison, does the relative gain to the public health, safety, or general welfare outweigh the loss in property value to a hardship imposed upon the applicant by not approving the request? So the developer is asking for residential, commercial, mixed use and does not pose a serious threat to health, safety, or welfare by its use. He's not asking for a slaughterhouse or a rendering plant or textile manufacturing or cement or something of that nature. This is going to be traditional residential and commercial. This is the future land use plan. This is the area for the PUD. Walmart's right over here. You can see in 2015 they're anticipating it being some sort of mix of commercial and residential. This is that area. This is an aerial map with the planned unit development over here. This is water and sewer in proximity. Walmart's right here. Trails over here. Marine Meadows is on the southern portion.
In that plan, do they show much sidewalks going, like from the trail up into that development?
So they do have sidewalks actually proposed in the development for the PUD. I don't know if it actually punches into, so this would be the southern portion of the PUD. I don't think it's actually punching into the trail, but they are introducing sidewalks in the development itself. And I heard from the developer himself that he wants to try to make it more of a walkable development. And so I think this would actually help and benefit that to that extent. But I don't think there's any point in them punching into the, currently they don't have any plans to punch into the Prairie Sunset Trail. This is the north, so you're looking north this way, south is over here. This is 183rd over here.
Looks like maybe in the southeast, right there, that might actually
Maybe.
punch in.
You might be able to sneak in there,
Well, my thought is that
maybe.
Well, no, 'cause
if somebody's
it's-
using the trail, they
Oh,
can get
it's
in there
not.
without crossing the highway as far as the safety thing. It's biking and so on.
I'm sure you'll be able to, it won't be hard to cut through the tree row. Small cost for publication, legally approved as a form. It is recommended that City Council both waive the reading of the ordinance with a voice and then approve the rezoning request for case number zone 22-4 with a voice and a roll call. The agent for the applicant is here. If you do have any questions for Myra Boffin, but if not, feel free to ask me any questions if you have any directed my way.
I'll take a motion to waive the reading.
I'll motion to waive the reading.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I'll make a motion to approve the rezoning request case number zone 22-4.
The motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call.
Councilmember Larkin,
Yes.
Councilmember Lehman,
Yes.
Councilmember Trailer,
No.
Mayor Zimmerman. Ordinance 911.
9/11. Thank you very much. This is item H.2. This is consideration of rezoning from C2 General Business and I1 Industrial to R4 High Density Residential and R1 Single Family Residential for case number zone -22-6. We're going to go through a lot of the same stuff that you guys have seen, so feel free, like I said, interrupt me at any time if you have any questions about it. Quick background, Boffin Company has submitted an application on behalf of the developer, Paul Kelsey, for rezoning one tract of land from I1 Industrial District to C2 General Business District to R4 High Density Residential and R1 Single Family Detached. Land is generally located on the west side of 167th Street north of Prairie Traveler Trail and south of US 54. The land is around 50-plus acres and is intended to be developed into single-family detached housing and twin homes with smaller lots. Development is scheduled to be all owner-occupied dwellings, introducing different housing types for ownership while working around the odd shape of the tract of land. Planning Commission approved the rezoning unanimously on December 12, 2022. Analysis, so like I said, you guys have seen this before, but I'm going to go through them again. What are the existing uses and the character and the condition of the subject property in the surrounding neighborhood? The subject property is classified as farming, ranch land, and land improvements. The land use to the east is single-family residence detached, and one lot is farming and ranch operation with improvements. To the south, the land is walking bike trail owned by Prairie Travelers Incorporated, and further south is farming, ranch land, no improvements. To the west, land is farming, ranch land, no improvements, and the section is dedicated to the future 54K42 bypass. The north is US 54-400. What is the current zoning of the subject property and that of the surrounding neighborhood in relation to the request? The land is currently zoned I1 Industrial District and C2 General Business District. To the east, the zoning is SF20, single family, 2,000 square foot lots, county zoning. To the south, the zoning is I1 Industrial District, and further south is rural residential. To west, the zoning is I1 Industrial District and C2 General Business District, and to the north, the land is US 54-400. Is the length of time that the subject property has remained undeveloped vacant as zone a factor into consideration? Perhaps, I would say generally perhaps. The land is zoned I1 Industrial District and C2 General Business District. Is this zoning classification has seen most of its development closer to Goddard Galleria off of 183rd and 199th along Goddard Road and Industrial Park? And US 54-400 has not had much commercial development or industrial development east of 183rd and west of 151st. So it's perhaps that is one reason why it hasn't been developed in its current zoning. Would the request correct an error in applications regulation? As mentioned, number 4, every time it asks us, it's saying, hey, is there a land use that exists, and would this rezoning help correct that nonconformity? And in this case, no. Is the request caused by change or changing conditions in the area of the subject property, and if so, what is the nature and significance of such change or changing conditions? So as mentioned, Goddard is experiencing significant residential growth and demand for additional housing of all types, and so that's kind of something that we've been seeing pretty consistently. Do adequate sewer disposal and water supply and all the necessary public facilities, including street access, exist, or can they be provided to serve the uses that would be permitted on the subject property? And so yes, this development is going to go through all the petitions as per the traditional steps for any other type of development where they petition will go through the process for introduction of all the improvements, sewer, water, and etc. Would the subject property need to be platted or replatted in lieu of dedication made for right-of-way easements and access control of building setback lines? So yes, they're gonna have to plat it. It's unplatted, so we're gonna have to go through the platting process. Would screening plan be necessary for existing or potential uses of the subject property? So no, as mentioned, the only time screening is required is if it's multifamily. We define multifamily as 3 units or greater, or if it's commercial. So in this case, they're not introducing 3 units or more or commercial. This is all residential, 2 units and 1 unit. So there's no screening necessary. Is suitable vacant land or buildings available or not available for development that currently has the same zoning as is requested? Yes, there is around 460 plus acres of vacant R1 land available. However, each tract of R1 land comes with challenges for development or sale. R4 land is around 4 acres. So a lot of the R1 that we have lots of R1 land. A lot of it's kind of locked up right now. So you have R1 land that either has an overlay on it, or you have R1 land that's in development, or you have R1 land that hasn't been sold yet. And so there's just a lot that kind of goes with that. And so for now, we do have a lot of R1 land, but this one is actually in consideration for development, where the other ones are sort of in limbo right now. If the request is for business or industrial uses, or such uses need to provide more services and employment opportunities, so it does not apply. This is residential request. There's no commercial or industrial being proposed. Is the subject property suitable for the uses in the current zoning to which has been restricted? No, C2 only allows for multifamily developments in conjunction with commercial or mixed uses of apartments, condos. I1 does not allow residential of any sort. I1 is industrial and C2 being commercial, so really you could only put apartments in here, or a quick trip, or for industrial you could do something of an industrial use, but other than that you couldn't really do R1 or a single family detached in that area. To what extent would the removal of restrictions, i.e. the approval of zoning request, detrimentally affect other property in the neighborhood? So as mentioned, neighborhoods are defined by the county as individual developments and are classified with neighborhood number. So anybody right now could go to mobile land records and pull up their property and click on their property records card and go look at how their property is classified. And then you can also go to reports, and if you click on the reports, you could go down and look at the comparable pricing, the price metrics that the county has, and you can also pull up your neighborhood number, and you'll see that the neighborhood number corresponds with the development that your house was built in, and that's kind of how they classify them. Now, not being a county representative myself, I can't speak definitively on the matter, but having talked to them extensively and harassing them intently over the last several years, they've kind of confided that this is how they generally do it. So there would be an increase of traffic on 167. So there's every development that's proposed, there's going to be cars that come with it. So every time you propose a development abutting an arterial street like 167 or 183rd, you're going to have cars that come with it. 13, would the request be consistent with the purpose of the zoning district classification, intent, and purpose of these regulations? So I'm not going to read all through this again, but the staff believes the development is in conformance with the zoning district purpose, and staff does believe it's in conformance with the intent and purpose of the subdivision regulations. I'll leave that up there for a little while. Is the request in conformance with the comprehensive plan? So once again, page 16, the comprehensive plan is to promote continued residential development to enlarge the tax base and strengthen municipal capacity to provide quality public facilities. Page 17, the comprehensive plan outlines housing objectives include providing for multifamily dwellings, retirement housing, and other specialized housing as required to meet the needs of defined user groups within the community. Page 60, the comprehensive plan shows the future land use map in the areas commercial and residential. What is the nature or support opposition? So it's generally the same. General support comes in the desire to increase the tax base of the city as well as diversify the housing stock. General opposition comes in the desire for the city to stay relatively unchanged in its land use composition and single-family detached housing and larger lots. 16, is there any information or are there recommendations on this request available from professional persons or persons with related expertise which would be helpful in the evaluation? So typical planning practice encourages what is referred to as missing middle. All missing middle is basically you saying you have single family detached over here and you have high rises over here. There's a whole lot of land uses in between there that could be introduced, and this is one of those. So you have condos, you have apartments, you have townhomes, patio homes, everything in between that would be considered the missing middle. Everything in between a single family traditional detached and a high rise, everything in between there, that's the missing middle. This is that introduction, which generally has been favored as a good thing for housing stock diversity and lower unemployment, according to Chad Frederick, PhD. So by comparison, does the relative gain to the public health, safety, or general welfare outweigh the loss in property value and hardship imposed upon the applicant by not approving the request? So the development is for residential use and does not pose a serious threat to health, safety, or welfare by its use. We're talking about residential, and this is actually down zoning, so we're going from a commercial and industrial to residential. So we're actually reducing the potential for the impact on health, safety, and wellness. And here's the future land use plan. Purple is being the area of impact. This is the twin homes that are being proposed on the north end of the development. It's kind of interesting layout because you have a side loaded and front loaded. This is a traditional single-family detached house like you'd see in any other neighborhood.
Did they say like how many twin homes and how many, or what are? how
No,
many
they don't have a
single-
composition yet, but the north end is going to be R4 and then 2/3 of it's going to be R1, generally speaking. But we haven't defined it yet in terms of the plat because they still have to plat it and then you have to they actually have to fit the lots on the land.
Right.
Right now, we're just looking at land use, but at some point that question will come up and you guys will see a plat and then they'll be laid out on that plat. Because you have to distinguish on a plat which lots are going to be dedicated for single family versus not single family. So then it'll be outlined on that.
And so we kind of have control there because we could say, no, we don't like that.
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, generally speaking, because you're going to have R4 on the north end and they'll lay that out and then they have R1 and so.
Gotcha.
Right now they're proposed, since it's just one lot, right now it's just one big tract, they have to split it out.
Right.
So it tapers on the north end, so it kind of makes it sail.
It's a really weird shape.
So there it is. So I've kind of drawn this line here from kind of what's been provided to me. So you can see here it's about 1/3 R4 and then 2/3 R1. And the reason they're doing R4 is because it gets weird on the north end and they have to make it work. And R4 is the only way they can really make it work in terms of lot layout. This cutout is from the 54, you have the 5496 bypass and then I think the 54 was at K42 down here. Anyway, they're hoping to do a clove relief once upon a time and who knows if that'll still come through or not, but that's what this outline is. Here's the trail, Remos, Walmart over here, and Healy Development over here. There's a north arrow, it's looking north. Financially, a small cost of publication, legally it's approved as a form. It is recommended the City Council waive the reading of the ordinance with a voice, and then 2, approve the rezoning request case number zone 22-6, voice plus roll call. As mentioned, agent for the applicant is here, Bachman, if you have any questions with them. If not, feel free to ask me any questions, and I'll be happy to answer them.
So get a motion to waive the reading?
Motion to waive the reading.
Second?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, aye?
Hi.
Opposed? Take a motion to approve the request.
I'll make a motion to approve the rezoning request case number zone 26-6.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Roll call.
Councilmember Larkin,
Yes.
Councilmember Lehman,
Yes.
Councilmember Trailer,
Yes.
Mayor Zimmerman,
Yes.
ordinance 911.
This is 912.
It's 9:12.
Oh, yeah, 912, I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. This is item H.3, consideration of rezoning from I-1 industrial to R4 high-density residential for case number zone 22-7. So, quick background. Bothman Company has submitted an application on behalf of the developer Paul Kelsey for rezoning one tract of land from I-1 industrial district to R4 high-density residential. Land is generally located on the west side of 167 north of Prairie Traveler Trail and south of US 54. The land is around 11.31 acres. It is intended to be developed into single-family detached housing, 2 stories of smaller lots. This development is scheduled to be all owner-occupied dwellings, introducing different housing stocks for opportunity of ownership while working around the odd shape of the tract of land. Planning Commission did approve this unanimously on December 12th, 2022. We're going to go through the analysis. You've seen these. There'll be more. If you have any questions, feel free to interrupt at any time. What are the existing uses and their character and conditions of the subject property and surrounding neighborhood? The subject property is classified as farming ranch land with no improvements. Land use to the east is single-family residence detached. To the south, the land use is farming ranch land with no improvements. To the west, land use is farming ranch land, no improvements. And a section is dedicated to the future 54 K42 bypass and Prairie Travelers Trail. To the north is farming ranch land, no improvements. What is the current zoning of the subject property and that of the surrounding neighborhood in relation to the request? The land is currently zoned I-1 Industrial District. To the east, the zoning is RR, which is rural residential. That's a county classification. South, the zoning is RR rural residential. To the west, the zoning is I-1 Industrial District and RR rural residential. Is the length of time the subject property has remained undeveloped vacant as a zone a factor into consideration? Perhaps. I-1 requires a lot of infrastructure to actually accommodate it. It's difficult for industrial to thrive when you don't have a lot of accommodating infrastructure like rail, ports, and things of that nature. And so I think perhaps that might have been one reason why the zoning hasn't really taken off on that area. Not to mention that it's an awkward lot. It's a little triangle wedge south of the trail, so it's not the most ideal spot to introduce textile manufacturing plant or something of that nature. So would the request correct an error in the application of these regulations? No, not in this case. Is the request caused by change or changing conditions in the area of subject property, and if so, what is the nature and significance of such change in the changing conditions? So yes, the Goddard is experiencing growth, as we all know, residential especially, and so the demand for housing is increasing every day, every year. Do adequate sewer disposal and water supply and all other necessary public facilities, including street access, exist, or can they be provided to serve the uses that would be permitted on subject property? So yes, we would go through petitions just like any other development. Would a subject property need to be platted or replatted? Yes, it's currently unplatted, so it'd have to go through the same platting process, so you guys will see the same layout. You'll see a plat, both preliminary and final. Preliminary and final goes to the planning commission, then the final plat comes before city council, and you guys will see all of that. And of course, during the platting process, they have to do the engineering for stormwater management, drainage, etc. Would a screening plan be necessary for existing or potential uses of the subject property? So no, as mentioned, screening is only required for multifamily, which is 3 units or more, or commercial. This is actually all R1 in terms of a land use. And so it's an R4 zoning, of course, but it's a single-family detached traditional housing. They're just on really small lots. That's why they're R4. Yes.
That's why it's R4 is because the lot size?
Yeah, it's an off the track of land.
Okay.
It's a little triangle, and so they have to. How do you get lots on a triangle? You know.
Okay.
Because typically when you see a development, it's a rectangle, and then you just
Right.
put a bunch of tracts of land in there. Throw in some reserves for detention ponds, and add some streets in there. But in this case, since it gets awkward, they have to kind of put them in there. And this is kind of, R4 is the only one that actually allows you to do that, because our other zoning classifications have minimum lot sizes and bulk regulations, and so the R4 kind of allows a little more versatility. It is only residential still, but generally speaking, it's not like a PUD, but it's still residential, just with a little bit more versatility in terms of its design.
Oh, thank you.
Is suitable vacant land or buildings available or not available for development that currently has same zoning as requested? So R4 is around 4. We only have really one tract of land that's R4, and that's north of Orshlands. That's it. Is the request for business or industrial uses, are such uses needed to provide more services? As residential request does not apply. Is the subject property suitable for uses in the current zoning to which has been restricted? No. I-1 does not, which is industrial, does not allow residential of any sort. You can't put residential in industrial zoning. To what extent would the removal of restrictions, i.e. the approval of zoning request, detrimentally affect other property in the neighborhood? Neighborhoods are defined by the county as an individual development and are classified with neighborhood number, as was mentioned before. So when the county is appraising these properties in the triangle, they're going to look within this area. If they can't find housing in an urban context within this neighborhood, they're going to look for another neighborhood in an urban context to try to find comparable properties to draw comparison for analysis. 13, would the request be consistent with the purpose of zoning? I do believe it is. Staff believes it is also in conformance with the subdivision regulations. Is the request in conformance with the comprehensive plan? So we mentioned page 16 many times because page 16 is easy to reference. Page 18 of the comprehensive plan is to assure safety and sanitary housing for all citizens of the community. Objectives, including under that, page 18 with the goals, provide housing for adequate living space for all citizens, plan for diversification of housing to meet the needs of individual user groups, support innovative planning and utilization of new technology and design of new neighborhood units. So this is actually quite in line with that one because they're implementing a new neighborhood unit in an awkward shaped lot for that tract of land. Page 60 of the comprehensive plan shows the future land use map in the area as undeveloped land. So they had no opinions apparently about what that future land use was going to look like. So they left it blank. What is the nature of support or opposition to the request? General support comes in a desire to increase the tax base for the city as well as diversified housing stock. General opposition comes in a desire for the city to stay relatively unchanged in its land use composition. 16, so is there any information or are there any recommendations on the requests available from professional persons or persons related to expertise which would be helpful in this evaluation? So sometimes this comes up a lot, and so I just kind of want to explain it a little bit. Sometimes people ask, why can't you have 5-acre lots? with, you know, $700,000 homes. You know, obviously we'd be in favor of that. But when you look at the average cost for homes, so we have all the Sedgwick County data. We get it every 3 months. We can look at all the houses in Sedgwick County, and we can parse that data out. We can appraise it. We can look at the values. We can look at everything. We get all that data and it's raw. We can analyze all that data as long as we want. And so what I did is I took all the 5 and 10 acre lots that were and had houses on it that were built between 2017 and 2022, and the average value of that home was about $400,000. Now, obviously, there's houses that were much higher than that. And there's actually houses that are a little bit lower. There are houses that had $200,000, but there are also houses that are $2 million. But this is the average. And so if you took that and you had 5 lots, and the total appraised value for a $406,000 home would be about $2 million, and so the assessed value would be about $233,000, and so the total tax collected would be about $7,700. And so then if you took the average value for all of the homes in Sedgwick County that were on 1 acre lots that were built between 2017 and 2022, the average value was appraised at $265,000. So now we've broken it down. We've gone from 5 acre lots to 1 acre lots, and the total appraised value has gone up to $6.6 million. We're collecting a $764 assessed, and then there's $25,000. So even though the home has dropped 35% in terms of the value, we're collecting 227% more in terms of taxes. So that's kind of, now it's not the only deciding factor, but in terms of raw economics, that's just something to consider. When you start putting more urban scale lots in a development, the city generates a lot more taxes. And it's not even just like a small number, like 20% or 30%, we're talking about 200% more. And so then if you go from 1 acre lots to quarter acre lots, which is traditional urban scale, most of the lots in Goddard are quarter acre. The average home in Sedgwick County that's on a quarter acre lot is $221,000. Now we have 100 lots. The total appraised value is $22 million. Total assessed is $2.5 million. And the city is collecting $83,000 in taxes every year. So even though the house has dropped from $400,000 to $221,000, which is a 46% decrease, we're collecting 989% more in property taxes. That's a significant increase in the difference between an urban scale and a rural scale lot. And that's kind of why this question comes up a lot. Why can't they all be 5 acre and $700,000 homes? This is generally why. By comparison, does the relative gain to the public health, safety, or general welfare outweigh the loss in property value to the hardship? Developments for residential use does not pose a serious threat to health, safety, or welfare by its use. So here's the triangle. Here's the trail. You can see that they were undecided on what the future of that lot was going to be. Here's the concepts that were provided by the developer. This is the Lennox 2-story. This is more of a shotgun style. These are...
That's a really narrow squeeze in there, isn't it? As far as what you can actually put in that little space.
In terms of the track, or are you talking about the house?
The houses.
Well, it's a small squeeze. I think that's why they're asking for the R4, so that they can actually punch those houses in there. But it is a more unique style, something that's somewhat we haven't really seen before, so it's a good introduction to the area. I think, as mentioned before, we have historically seen the starter home go away. I think perhaps this is something that could actually help take its place. It's still owner occupied. It's just in the middle of what you would consider maybe unconventional or non-traditional style housing, but it's still an owner occupied single family detached house. So here's the R4, here's the triangle, here's the trail, here's 167. Ben Healy's development's over here, this is Marie Meadows over here, this is the rezoning that was just approved. Small cost for publication, we always have to publish the ordinance if it's accepted. Legally, it's approved as a form. It is recommended City Council waive the reading of the ordinance. And then 2, approve the rezoning request for case number zone 22-7 with a voice and roll call. Agent for the applicant is here. If you have any questions for me or him, feel free. If not, feel free to address any questions to me. I'm happy to answer them.
I have a motion to waive the reading.
I'll make a motion to waive the reading of the ordinance.
Any second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Take a motion to approve the zoning request.
I'll make a motion to approve the rezoning request, case number zone 22-7.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Can I give that to Mr. Larkin or Mr. Trailer?
Give it a trailer.
All right, thanks.
Roll call?
Councilmember Larkin,
Yes.
Councilmember Leland,
Yes.
Councilmember Trailer,
Yes.
Mayor Zimmerman,
Yes.
ordinance number 913.
Thank you very much. This is item H.4. This is the consideration of rezoning from R1 Single Family Residential to R2 Two Family Residential with case number zone 22-5. Quick background. Boffin Company submitted an application on behalf of the developer Paul Kelsey rezoning one tract of land from R1 Single Family Detached to R2 Two Family Residential. Land is generally located on the northwest corner of 167 Pawnee, West 23rd. The land is around 69.9 acres and is intended to be developed into duplexes. This land is not abutting the greater corporate city limits of Goddard, which required it to be annexed as an island annexation per KSA 12520C. City Council reviewed the request on October 3rd, 2022, and per the state law agreed to a resolution requesting findings of fact from the Board of County Commissioners. BOCC determined the tract of land was a reasonable annexation. The BOCC met on November 2nd at 9 a.m. and determined based on the facts presented to them that this request was reasonable and provided for a request by annexation. City Council approved the annexation November 7th, 2022. Once annexed, the land defaults to R1, which it is now currently, single family, at which point the developer can ask for a rezoning hearing to change the classification. On December 12, 2022, the Planning Commission denied the recommendation for a rezoning request on a unanimous vote of 6-0. This now requires a supermajority of the vote of the City Council to approve the rezoning, which is 4 to 5 members voting in favor. That means everybody have to vote in favor of it for it to move forward. So now we're going to go into the 7 factors, which you've seen. And like I said, feel free to interrupt me at any time if you guys have any questions about any of it.
Me,
Yes.
since
I haven't
we've annexed that,
Yes.
no matter what we do, can the city of Wichita come in and annex it?
No, we'd have to de-annex it for Wichita to annex it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Unless they take us by force, I don't know. Has there been a
If we don't, even if we don't do anything.
If you
with
see a
it,
Wichita flag flying on City Hall,
even if we don't do anything with it,
you can't, so if you don't do anything with it, it's going to stay R1. It's still in the city limits. We've already incorporated it into the city limits.
okay.
But we've annexed it officially. The county recognizes it, Wichita recognizes it, everybody recognizes it's now officially Goddard. We would have to go through a de-annexation process to say, we don't want it anymore.
Okay,
And then
cool.
anybody, it's open to the world to claim.
Okay, cool.
Can we, let me just throw this out as a thought, can we send it back to the planning commission and say, okay, we would be in favor of this if you put percentages in there, and how they can do that? Or what the planning
You
commission-
could, so the recommendations that you have before you would be either approve it with a majority, which would be a veto. You'd have to veto the planning commission with 4 of you voting in favor of it, which we'll get to. You can deny the request, or you can send it back to the planning commission. If you send it back to the planning commission, then the planning commission will deliberate on the 9th, and then they would make a recommendation, either to amend it in whatever way you feel necessary. They'll take into account what your recommendation is, but they don't necessarily have to change it based on your recommendation. They may still vote no, in which case it just comes back to you either with the original vote of no or with their amended vote, and then you guys would see that on the next city council meeting. Their new and improved recommendation, which would either be no or change it to this or something of that nature.
I think it'd be more palatable to the folks here if they could keep all those duplexes in the center and put single family around them. And that way there'd be home ownership and people taking responsibility for them around it and sort of cut the duplexes out of vision. And then maybe 20% townhomes, which would be owner taking pride in their duplex or in their townhomes. Because there's an older generation coming up that don't want to walk up steps, you know?
So that recommendation would be basically to, and we'll get to it. And so that recommendation will go back to the planning commission. They'll take into account what you just stated, if that's the motion that the city council wants to make. And then they'll deliberate, and then they'll come back with the next council meeting with their determination by the planning commission. So the following requirements are found in Article 13, as mentioned. What are the existing uses and their character and condition on the subject property and the surrounding neighborhood? So the subject property is classified as farming ranch land with ag improvements. The land use to the east is farming ranch operation with improvements. To the south, the land use is farming ranch operation with improvements. To the west, the land use is single family residence detached. To the north, the land use is farming ranch land, no improvements. What is the current zoning of the subject property and that is surrounding neighborhood in relation to the request? The land is currently zoned R1 single family residential because it is annexed. It's in the city limits, so it's got a zoning classification for the city. To the east, the zoning is RR rural residential. To the south, the zoning is RR rural residential. To the west, the zoning is RR rural residential. To the north, the land is RR rural residential. Is the length of time that such property has remained undeveloped vacant as zoned a factor in the consideration? No, the land was until recently a tract of land in the county where the city did not have a regulatory authority over it. So it was an island. We only annexed it very recently. Excuse me. Would the request correct an error in the application of these regulations? No. Is the request caused by change or changing conditions in the area of the subject property, and if so, what is the nature? So, yes, of course, as mentioned, we are experiencing large residential growth. Do adequate sewer disposal and water supply and all necessary public facilities, including street access, exist, or can they be provided? So, the petition process will be applied to this development as well. Would the subject property need to be platted or replatted? So, yes, it would have to be platted. It's currently unplatted. So, for vesting of rights, you need to plat. Would a screening plan be necessary, existing or potential uses for subject property? So no. As mentioned, 3 units or greater, that's classified as multifamily or commercial, and these are 2 units. Is suitable vacant land or buildings available or not available for development that currently has the same zoning as is requested? Zoning for R2 accounts for about 293 acres, which includes the proposed development, which is 15% of original land. All R2 is in the process of being developed and is currently developed. Or it is currently developed. Is the request for a business or industrial uses? Are such uses needed? So no, it's residential request, so 10 does not apply. We'll take a quick pause. I need some water. Thank you. Is the subject property suitable for uses in the current zoning to which it has been restricted? So yes, R1 actually does allow for duplexes. But they are considered a conditional use. So a conditional use is an acceptable use with conditions. That's all a conditional use is. So technically, yes, you can build duplexes in an R1, but you have to go through a similar kind of rezoning process where you publish it, you take it to planning commission. But in a conditional use process, the planning commission has ultimate authority where they make the final decision on the conditional use because it's considered an acceptable land use just with the conditions. So if you said, I want to build a duplex in an R1, we would go through the process of publishing, sending out letters and everything else. We'd take it to the planning commission. The planning commission could say, we don't want to have any conditions on it. We think it's fine. Or they could say, we want extra buffers, extra screening, anything else. But as mentioned, it's considered an acceptable use, just an acceptable use with conditions. Well, I've mentioned that neighborhoods are defined by the county's individual developments are classified with a neighborhood number. Abutting neighborhoods would not be compared to the proposed development for appraised purposes because these would be duplexes, so the county is going to look within the development for appraised purposes, and if it can't find anything that's comparable, which I don't think it would probably find some that are comparable, it would look to other urban developments that have duplexes for appraised value, for comparable value. It is less certain if it would impact the marketability of homes, so that has to be a distinction there between marketability and appraised value. 13, and staff does believe it's in conformance as mentioned. Staff believes it is in development as conformance with the intent and purpose of the subdivision regulations. 14 is a request in conformance with the comprehensive plan as it further advance the implementation of the plan. So once again, page 16 is really easy to reference because it talks about promoting all types of residential housing. So anything that's a residence and it's a housing unit, it can be associated with page 16. Page 17 of the comprehensive plan outlines housing objectives include providing for multiple family dwellings, retirement housing, and other specialized housing as required to meet the needs of defined user groups within the community. Page 60 of the comprehensive plan shows the future land use map in this area as residential. This is a proposed residential development, so it's in conformance with that. What is the nature and support? So we know generally support comes in the desire to increase the tax base for the city, as well as diversify the housing stock and provide rental property for those who are either unable or unwilling to purchase in the moment. In general, opposition comes in the desire for the city to stay relatively unchanged in its land use composition of single-family detached housing and larger lots. Is there any information or other recommendations or requests available from professional persons or persons with related expertise in which would be helpful in the evaluation? So providing rental properties in traditional form avoids the need for renters to rent single-family detached homes, which are typically considered owner-occupied. Preventing renter-occupied dwelling units cause renters to look into renting single-family detached homes as the only rental option available. This causes people actively looking for home ownership to compete with speculators of single-family detached homes. This drives up the demand for single-family detached home values, which in turn makes a single-family home more desirable for real estate speculation as an investment opportunity, and this causes bidding wars between potential homeowners and the real estate speculation further driving up the value of homes, and this continued real estate speculation pushes homes out of the goods market into the asset market, causing a housing bubble which is prone to higher levels of volatility and crashes. So what you have is like, we know that people want to own, we know that people want to rent, we know that there's a transition there where renters want to own at some point. And so what happens is if you restrict rental properties, people start renting owner-occupied traditional single-family detached housing. And so what that does is that causes speculators to go, oh, look at this, it's driving up the price. I can rent for $1,500, $1,600, $1,800. And so then people start buying, speculators start buying swaths of single-family detached traditional housing because it's a good investment vehicle. And so that competes with Joe homeowner who wants to buy a house or who recently got married or they have kids and now they want to buy into a house. And what happens is that drives the price up even further. And so then what happens is that it causes a bidding war, and then you have the home values drive up further and further and further until there's a crash because people can't afford the home mortgages that they have and people aren't put in there. That's something that you saw in 2008, and this is substantiated by multiple literary reports. So that's one reason. By comparison, as a relative gains for public health, safety, or general welfare outweigh the loss in property value of the hardship imposed upon the applicant by not approving their request. Development is for residential use and does not pose a serious threat to health, safety, welfare by its use, but it will introduce more cars into the area. So this is the percentage of ownership of single-family detached housing units in Goddard. And as you see, even though we introduce more and more single-family detached housing units, the percentage that's owner-occupied actually starts to slowly decrease. And then we see that out of Goddard home ownership is starting to slightly increase. And so to avoid these two lines meeting, which would mean that would be a 50-50%, so 50% is owner-occupied, 50% of all the single-family. This is just single-family detached traditional housing, so that's like St. Andrews, Spring Hill, Seasons, everything of that nature. That's just single-family detached housing units. To avoid those two being 50-50, we want to try to introduce more rental properties so that renters rent the rental properties and owners occupy owner-occupied properties, and that's kind of how we try to avoid that. Because if you have renters renting single-family detached housing units, renters traditionally don't want to manage properties. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're a renter, you're renting a property, so you don't have to manage it for that very reason. And so then you start to see that the code violations that renter-occupied single-family detached housing starts to increase, and then the city has to start to investigate those. And so to avoid that, we would rather have renters rent rental properties that are going to have property management professionally. This is the area. This is an aerial map. This is Marine Meadows over here. There's the trail. This is the concept provided by the developer. So this is that tree row. He's proposing leaving that in place. Landscaping along the southern portion over here. 6-foot screening fence. 6-foot screening fence along here. These green areas are reserves for detention ponds and existing trees to remain.
Yeah.
Obviously, they haven't gone through plating yet, so we just have to plat that area. So these are some of the questions that have been asked recently, and so I've kind of compiled some of the data. So currently, right now, what percentage of Goddard is duplexes, and how does that compare to other cities? So right now, we're about 2.3% duplex. Mays is 7.2%, Valley Center is 2.7%, Bel Air is 4.8%, and Derby is 2%. This all comes from Central County GIS parcel data, which we get every 3 months, and this is the most recent one we got from December of 2022. So what are the parcel counts with the function single-family detached? So this is a residential and single-family detached. So how many single-family detached parcels do each city have? And so we have Goddard over here at 1,600, Mays at 1,500, Valley Center at 2,300, Derby at 7,800, Bel Air at 2,700. So how many parcels are counted with a function duplex, which means it's a residential lot with a duplex as the function, meaning that it's built, existing. 42 for Goddard, 140 for May, 72 for Valley Center, 176 for Derby, and 146 for Bel Air. This doesn't include any outstanding projects that are in the works. So what is the parcel count with residential others? So anything that's not single family or duplex. So that could be anything else from apartments to triplexes to townhomes, anything of that nature. And these are the counts over here. So this is the project makeup of housing for some of our projects that are in the works right now. So you have Big Arm, Goddard Trails End, Arbor Creek, Rustic Creek, Paul Kelsey A, Paul Kelsey B, Paul Kelsey C, Cedar Addition, Ben Healy Development, Bridger, and Maple. And so this is the composition right here. These are the total number of buildings, total number of units, assuming 2.8 people per building unit based on census data. So we're right around 0.4 above the national average at 2.5. For the national average, we're about 2.9, so we can round it up to 3. We don't have to have 9.9 of a person, but that will be about 5,300 additional people for all the projects going in. That brings us up to about 10,000, assuming everything came online overnight. So this is the last 3 years of new building permits for two-family residences. This data was pulled from the Metropolitan Area Building Construction Department, MABCD. We had 37, so basically this is houses that were the last 3 years. This is January of 2020 to January 1st of 2023. We've had 37 building permits for Goddard, 123 for Mays, 22 for Mulvane, and 609 for Wichita. This is for the last 3 years. Excuse me. So this is the proposed duplex development. So this is the by numbers. So you have 189 lots. So this is the average valuation of a duplex. So the last duplexes that have been submitted to the city, what's the average valuation for those projects? It was $393,800. So that brings the total appraised value at $74 million, the assessed value at $8.5 million. City property taxes per year at $284,406. Total permit fees, which is static, so that means we're only going to collect it once, it's not recurring, would be $251,000. Total equity fees, which is static, not recurring, $189,000. Tap fees, $567,000, non-recurring, of course, static. Water and sewer services, this would be per year, so we'd be collecting them. I looked at comparable water services for duplexes that are existing and just multiplied it by the numbers. So we'd be collecting around $349,000 per year. Comparable, so this is compensating use tax plus our in-city sales tax per year. So what I did is I pulled it from the reports by the city treasurer and divided it by 5,200, which is our current population projected, and assumed that we are getting around something around $153 per person per year. Obviously, some people spend more, and obviously kids don't buy, but this is just a relative number. So we're having it around $59,724 per year out of this development from online sales and in-city sales taxes. So the reoccurring, which is all these numbers, plus the static, which is all this combined, comes out to $1.7 million, and then every year would be collecting around $693,402 every year after that. So this is the breakdown percentage of residential lots. So orange is current. So we're currently at 90% of all of our residential developments are single-family detached. So all of our residential lots, 90% of them are single-family detached. 2% are duplexes and 8% are other. And other just means anything that's residential that's not a duplex or single-family. So that could be triplexes, quadplexes, apartments, and everything else in between. And if we brought online everything that we just talked about on the last couple slides, we would be at 76% for single-family detached, 17% for duplexes, and 7% for other. So that'd be 3 out of 4 lots, and then 1 out of 6 lots, and then 1 out of 14 lots. So some of these questions have come up. I've had some multiple citizens from Marine Meadows and other places come in and ask me different questions. I'm happy to provide. I have lots of data and information, probably more than they wanted. And then, of course, the Planning Commission also wanted to know these numbers as well. And so this is being presented to City Council at the same time. Financially, there's a small cost for publication. Legally, it's approved as the form. So it is recommended City Council consider the following options. 1, veto the Planning Commission with 4 votes in favor, which is a supermajority, and then you would go through the waiving of the ordinance. Approve the rezoning request, case number zone 22-5, like you did with other ones. Deny the rezoning request, or 3, make a motion to remand to the Planning Commission, send back. Remand means, we're going to send it back for review and examination for conformity to blank. And this, in this case, would be Mayor Zimmerman's request for land use composition within the development. So that's something that could be considered as a motion. At this time, if you do have any questions or comments, feel free to ask me. Agent for the applicant is here. I'm open to questions.
Carol, do you think you'd be open to some compromise on that?
Here's the slide.
Thank you. Evening, Phil Meyer with Bachman Company, agent for the applicant. Can I go back to that for a minute? A rough plan of what we're trying to do. To answer that question, I'm going to probably need some more insight as to what you're thinking in percentages and quantity. The one thing I do want to point out to the City Council, with this development, it comes with a homeowners association. So we create a homeowners association in these duplex developments. We require that, gives us common maintenance for the grass, common maintenance for the exterior of the building, the landscaping, so you don't end up with each renter trying to take care of their yard. This whole facility has common maintenance happening with it. So it gives the whole development an overall cohesive feel to it, and keeps it in good standings and keeps it looking good. I would point out to council that, and Micah mentioned a little bit with some of his talk, but these things rent for $1,300–1,500 a month. The individuals that are renting these are your citizens here in Goddard. So a lot of the undesirables that you'll hear the neighbors being concerned about, they're not renting these things for $1,500 a month. That's not possible. I do have a different developer, did one of these in Mulvane, tracked who rented the duplexes. You know, you had your teachers, your nurses, medical, young professionals, just people looking to get a start. So with that, I know I didn't answer your question, Mayor, but when you say, was he willing to compromise, I don't know what level of compromise you're looking at.
Well, I can't speak for the rest of the council, but I've kicked it around quite a bit, and I think that if you got 30% duplexes and 20% townhomes, of course, the townhomes, I guess, could always be flipped into rentals, I guess, if they sold.
So can the single
So
family
can
at
a
that
single
point.
family.
Yeah.
But that would, like down on 23rd Street down there, we've got duplexes in the center of the thing, and it seemed like that was a little bit more palatable for the area to where the duplexes weren't just, you know, all of a sudden, there they are, all duplexes.
Yeah. Well, I hope this layout helps, and that drainage, those reserves are where they need to be for the development. Convenient for maybe your concerns, and that we need that reserve at the intersection on the southeast corner. Provides a nice buffer along 167th. We need that reserve on the southwest corner, which provides a nice buffer to the exception piece, that 10-acre exception piece that sits there. Have a great hedgerow along the west property line to protect that. And if you look at that hedgerow, that thing is from ground up. You can hardly see through that hedgerow. We were going to offer a fence or some additional landscaping along that west line, but it's just not necessary with the existing hedgerow. So we did not offer that in that concept there. Our preference is that you approve it as we submitted the application, but I also know council has every right to either send it back to Planning Commission with your thoughts or to approve it with however you think it should be approved. So if the true concern from the neighbors is, or council, maybe I should say, the concern from council is the look along Pawnee or 167th, we've really minimized the number of units along there. So again, I don't know that I'm answering your question, but you could ask me more specifically and I'll try to give you a cleaner answer.
I guess I'll start down at the end and see what the thoughts are, as council.
Well, I mean, I guess, what happened with Trail Bend? What was the percentage or whatever?
You do 40?
Mike, did you remember what the percentage?
Yes, it's 40%. 40%.
40%?
I mean, I don't know.
But they didn't have any townhomes in that next season.
Oh, so you're saying total 50% townhomes?
50% of townhomes and the duplexes.
I mean, I guess, does it work for you guys though? I mean, I don't know your guys' numbers.
Maybe I wasn't sure if I was done or not, so I sat down.
I don't know if 50% does it, but if it gets voted down here, then it's all gotta be single family, right?
Well, it would be single family or we gotta apply
have to
again
do-
with a different application.
Or each time they want to do, like if they want a duplex, then they can go to the planning commission and say, for this lot, we want a duplex. And they would have to do that
You
each
gotta do
time
it
they
for
want a
each lot?
duplex.
Yes, for a conditional use permit.
So that won't work.
See, and I think
And that was part of why the apportionment was determined for
for
Trails End.
Yeah. But I almost lean more towards that in this situation, just because our numbers of duplexes and apartments are getting, we are growing, we've approved a lot of those in the last year. So to me, I think, like, I'm leaning keep it R1 and they get to apply for special, or whatever that thing is.
Conditional use.
Conditional use, thank you, not special use, conditional use, if they want to put a duplex in.
Trailer, what do you think?
You already know where I'm at.
Can tell the rest of us. Secrets don't make friends.
Well, I'm leaning at R1. So I would think that you need to do a percentage there if you wanted to keep it. So it needs to go back to the planning commission.
So may I ask council, is it traffic that is the concern? Is it density that is the concern?
For me, it's a combination of everything, traffic, density. As I stated previously, we just approved apartments and duplexes in that PUD. We had 2 R4s that we just approved, which one of those is going to be single homes or proposed single homes, but the other one's gonna have duplexes. We do have Trails Inn that's got some duplexes. So me personally, I'm kinda at the point, okay, I feel like we've got enough rental property, that's true rental property, not single family homes, but actual rental property that should be rental property. I think we're providing enough at this point for the community with the developments we've approved so far. So that's where I'm setting.
I mean, if we send it back to the planning commission, then they're gonna want some advice on what we would allow, so.
Well,
Is there a percentage that we would allow if they approved it? I don't know.
that could be within your purview, or you could kind of general in nature, in that when you remand the application back to the planning commission for further review, specifically for the land use composition within the development, then that will give you an idea for what the planning commission's thinking is the right mix. Or as Mr. Meyer said, if you have an idea for what percentage that should be, then you could remand it back to the planning commission with the land use composition within a certain percentage and have them consider the application at that time. And Micah, feel free to speak up since we're...
I about summed it up. I mean, it's ultimately, the planning commission makes recommendations that come to the city council, and the city council is the one who makes the ultimate decision. So if you're asking, it just depends on what you're asking for. You could approve it with a percentage if that's what you're looking for. You can do it yourself. If you're asking for more review by planning commission, you can send it back to the planning commission, but you would have to take that into account, knowing that they may just say, no, we want it denied, and it comes back to you with the same motion. They may change it. It would be considered, like I said, on the 9th, and so they would make a recommendation again on the 9th, but then it would come back to you guys, and that recommendation could change, or it could stay exactly the same. It's totally up to them. At which case you would then have a simple majority, not a super majority, to make a decision on that rezoning, but ultimately you would still have to make the ultimate decision, regardless of what planning commission says. You would have to make that decision, what you want to see.
You send it back to planning commission, and since you say they have a better grasp on it, and they come up with maps.
I could be honest with that.
I mean, try to do the best you can do.
Yeah.
Cause that, I mean, trying to get the same consensus here.
No, do we need a motion to send it back with the stipulation?
Well, I couldn't hear what the stipulation.
Well, we're thinking about sending back to the planning commission and asking their thoughts on what an acceptable percentage would be.
So then it would be a motion to remand the application for item H4 to the planning commission for further review, specifically for land use composition within the development.
That sounds perfect. I make that motion that he just said.
Okay, we have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
And Micah, you might just put that before them, you know, that we're looking at what acceptable percentage would be.
I'll draft sort of a summary of the minutes and go to deliberation council for that agenda item. And that way the planning commission can have that.
Item H5 is our annual cash basis waiver for generally accepted accounting principles, which most cities in Kansas adopt this resolution as it complies with cash basis, which is how we account for our budget and financial reporting. It again waives the gap for 2023, directs staff to prepare the financial statements on the basis of cash receipts known as cash basis. It complies with the cash basis and state budget laws. The gap waiver and cash basis reporting is performed annually. Last occurred on January 3rd, 2022 with Resolution 2201, waiving gap. Failure to adopt will require a significant increase to staffing and financial software purchase costs, as we would then begin applying gap, which there are less than a dozen cities in the state that do that, and they're the larger jurisdictions that are required to do so, like the city of Wichita or some of the communities in Johnson County. This resolution was written and reviewed by City Attorney Ryan Peck. It is based on KSA 75-1120A and can be taken with a voice vote.
I have a motion to adopt the resolution as presented.
Make a motion to adopt the resolution as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Resolution number 2301.
Item H6 is our appropriation resolution. It's adopted annually, conforms with GFOA and ICMA. Last adopted on January 3rd, 2022. It authorizes essentially the payable of salaries, payroll, and ordinary business claims. It requires at least 3 signatures from either the mayor, the city clerk, city administrator, city treasurer. Claims are reviewed by the governing body and the accounts payable during the consent agenda of each meeting. There's no cost for the passage. The resolution is reviewed by the city auditor annually and was written and reviewed by City Attorney Ryan Peck and the City Auditor Randy Ford.
Make a motion to adopt the resolution as proposed.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second, discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Resolution number 2302.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, this is item H.7, Boundary Resolution 2023. So pursuant to KSA 12-517, which states that any year in which any territory has been added to or excluded from any city, the governing body of such city shall declare by resolution the entire boundary of the city. So the city engineer has provided this resolution, which includes all property added to the Goddard city limits within the last year. And as you know, we've had multiple annexations, so this would be included in that resolution. So here's our new boundary. You can't tell it's the purple area. Financially none. This is a statutory requirement approved as to form. It is recommended City Council adopt the proposed resolution establishing the boundary of Goddard municipal corporate limits.
Make the motion.
Okay, we have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Very good.
Resolution number 2303.
Thank you very much.
Honorable Mayor and council members, we have resolutions authorizing improvements for the Big Arm addition at 23rd and 199th. We'll have these 4 items presented in sequence. When we do these kind of items, we'll take the background and the things that remain unchanged, present them first, and then we'll go through the actual analysis component of each of the improvement authorizations for adoption at that time, and then just move sequence down until we've completed the improvement authorizations. So this is the first of 3 actions to be taken by the council for the authorization of the improvements. The first step authorizes the improvement. The second is the authorization for the temporary note sale and solicitation of bids, with the third one being the ratification of the bond sale, acceptance of bids, and finalization of the temporary note issuance. So what we're doing here is accepting the petitions and authorizing the improvements in accordance with the special assessment statute, which is KSA 12-6A01 at SEC. Sorry, I put that in there twice. With respect to the cost improvements to be assessed, it's on a fractional basis with 1/29th per lot for lots 2 through 19 Block A, 1 through 11 Block B. Again, this is 100% by the improvement district, 0 with the city at large, and it is a general obligation issuance, meaning that the city's full faith and credit backs the bond, or the notes. And this is the layout of the development with 199th along the right side and 23rd Street or Pawnee on the south side. Those dashed lines are the right-of-way for the pipeline. Acceptance of the petitions and authorizing the project and issuance of temp notes under the special assessment statute. The proposed documents have been authored by Bond Counsel Kevin Cowan of Gilmore Bell and reviewed by our city attorney Ryan Peck, who approves this to form. The stormwater improvements are item H.8A, and it authorizes $309,000 for the stormwater improvements, and staff's recommendation that you consider accepting the petitions for improvements and adopting the resolution authorizing the stormwater improvements for Big Arm.
Move the motion. Accept the resolution.
I make a motion, we accept the resolution H.8A.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolution 23-04.
Item H8B is for paving improvements that will construct pavement on Dora and on Castle Streets with the lot block numbers identified. The petition's for $268,000, and it's staff's recommendation to accept the petitions and authorize the improvements.
I'll make a motion to accept the petitions and authorize the improvements, sorry.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Resolution 2305.
Item H.8C is the resolution for sanitary sewer improvements. And this petition authorizes the construction of the sewer laterals. And the petition amounts $236,000. And it's staff's recommendation to accept the petitions and authorize adopt the resolution authorizing the sanitary sewer improvements for Big Arm.
Okay, do we have a motion to that effect?
Make a motion that we approve 8HA.C. 8.C.
A motion,
Second.
motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Carried.
Resolution 2306.
Item H8D is the water line extension, and it authorizes the extension of water lines. I apologize, I left sanitary sewer in there, but that should be water lines for $139,000. And this resolution authorizes the improvements for this water line extension. So it's staff's recommendation that you accept the petition for improvements and adopt the resolution authorizing the improvements.
A motion to approve H8D.
So motion.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Resolution 2307.
Item H9 is the engineering service agreement for Big Arm. And just reviewing Big Arm history with the plat approval on March 14th, 2022, and the petitions for improvements on phase 1 were considered with the rezoning being approved on March 21st. The final plat was approved on August 1st of 2022. The proposed agreement is between the city and Garver, who is the developer's engineering representative. The total cost is $104,000 with design services for stormwater paving, sanitary sewer line extension, water line extensions are $75,100 with construction staking being $28,900. And it's recommended that the city council designate the city engineer and city administrator to act as the representatives and authorize the mayor to sign the engineering service agreement with Garver LLC.
Do we have a motion to that effect?
Make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
And I've got handouts, and I want to thank our bond counsel, Kevin Cowan, and our financial advisor, Brett Sjogren, for the quick turnaround on these. We've got a series of resolutions for Trails End. As you are aware, we were anticipating a bid award, however, the bids came in slightly over, well, not slightly, they came in over the budget and the authorized amount, and so an amended petition is required. We're able to save some issuance costs by bootstrapping them with the Big Arm edition. So we'll be receiving 2 more plus item H11, which will be the authorization resolution. And I've got some slides which kind of simplify exactly what it is that's occurring. And I'll be finalizing the agenda packet for posting once this is completed. We didn't have the time to complete our normal routines with the holiday. This last one that I'm passing out would be the resolution authorizing temporary note sale and solicitation of bids. I'll fix that.
On all of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
These are all trails in, just divided up into small sections, is that what I'm looking at?
The only thing that hasn't changed at this time is the paving petition. The background for Trails End, which what we have is the bids being received on December 20th. That necessitates an amended improvement petition and supplementary issuance. This is where the addition's located at 23rd and 215th on the northeast corner. This is the top half of the plat with 215th on the left-hand side. And then 215th on the left-hand side with 23rd Street to the south. Again, like we did with the last one, the background financial and legal considerations are presented as single items. And then we'll have the analysis and recommendation delineating each resolution authorizing these improvements following as items H.10 A, B, C, etc. In accordance with state statutes, these are general obligation temp notes, and they'll be converted or rolled into longer-term GO bonds through the special assessment process. They were authored and reviewed by our bond counsel and city attorney Ryan Peck. And again, we received the amended petitions and these numbers at about noon today. What we're doing here is showing the improvements in the graph with the initial resolutions, authorizing the amounts for each improvement with the proposed amendment, and the difference between the original and the amended amount. So the water transmission, which was authorized with 2209, originally had an issuance of $399,000. That new petition amount is an increase of $97,000 to $496,000. Water distribution phase 1 has a $987,000 original amount. That has been increased by $330,000 to $1,317,000. The lift station forced main was approved with resolution 2211 with an original amount of $786,000. That's increased by $544,000 to $1,330,000. The sanitary sewer for phase 1 was authorized with resolution 22-12 and an $878,000 amount with an amendment of $337,000, bringing that total authorized amount to $1,215,000. The paving petition remains unchanged at $1,853,000. And then the phase 1 stormwater was authorized with 22-14 and the original amount of $1,430,000. That has been increased by $435,000 to $1,865,000. So the original authorization was $6,333,000 that was issued in July. And the amendment is now $8,076,000 for an increase of $1,743,000. The first resolution, H.1A, repeals 2209 and increases that authorization amount as previously stated, and is cost apportioned 1 to 202 for the lots identified, with the city paying $100,000 in oversized capacity, with that cost to be received through the application of benefit fees for future users in subsequent years. It's recommended that the city council adopt the proposed resolution accepting the amended improvement petitions and authorizing the construction of a water transmission line.
Has our share of that gone up in
No.
price?
It's the same.
So, what happened between when we first issued it and now that they've gone up
Inflation.
like 25%? Because basically we were at what, 6 mil and now we're at 8 mil? So it's 25%. What happened? 33%. What happened?
Well, I would say that the contractors came in higher than what was anticipated from the engineer's bid. Now, the engineer's bid's not our engineer's bid, it's the developer's engineer's bid. And this was issued back in July. So when their original construction schedule and development plans and all of that, if it had stayed on schedule, whether it would be this extent of the over amount, I don't know. But we're anticipating a bid award essentially the second meeting in February, which would be at the time that the temp notes would be closed. And they would, the 2023-2 series would be, again, taking the big arm and the trail's end and combining them, which the original amount that we were anticipating bringing to the council tonight was significantly less, and in fact, the largest percent of that issuance was anticipated to be big arm. However, when they looked at recent bids that have come in versus what was authorized, that was when we only wanted to come back once, and so these petition amounts are what the developer's engineer feels is more realistic and prudent.
Okay, so we've already approved the development, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So basically, we have to do this anyway.
Yeah, and we've done this
Yeah.
historically in the past. I believe we did an amendment for Arbor Creek, and we also have done them for...
Are we going to be able to afford this?
Yes. And we've done amendments for St. Andrews, I think, on at least 2 occasions that I'm aware of. I think Elk Ridge, second phase, we did something.
Guess it's sort of like our sewer plant. We bid that out, we got that bid out, and it ended up costing them, what, 40% more?
Mm-hmm.
That was before my time.
Like
so.
the lift station.
Yeah.
So we need to adopt the proposed resolution. I make a motion. We adopt the proposed resolution.
Any motions? Is there a second?
Second.
Second, any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Carries.
Resolution 2311.
And item 10B is for the water distribution or the internal development water lines. And it restates and repeals Resolution 22-10 and increases this authorization amount from $987,000 to $1,317,000. And it's apportioned by 1/145th. And it's 100% within the improvement district. And it's staff's recommendation that you adopt the proposed resolution accepting the amended petitions and authorizing the construction of the water distribution for phase 1.
We have a motion to that effect.
So motion.
Second.
I second that motion.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Resolution 2309.
Item 10C is the lift station of Forest Main, and this resolution restates and repeals Resolution 22-11 and increases the authorization amount from $786,000 to $1,330,000, which is an increase of $544,000. The cost is apportioned 200 seconds, with 100% being within the improvement district and none by the city at large. It's recommended that the council adopt the proposed resolution accepting the amended improvement petitions and authorizing the construction of the lift station of Forest Main.
Do we have a motion?
So motion.
Second.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Resolution 2310.
Item 10D is the sanitary sewer, or the laterals, the sewer sewer within the addition itself. And this resolution repeals and restates Resolution 22-12, increasing the authorization from $878,000 to $1,215,000, or an increase of $377,000. And it's apportioned 1/155ths, 100% paid by the improvement district, and it's staff's recommendation that the council adopt the proposed resolution accepting the amended improvement petitions and authorizing the construction of the sanitary sewer improvements for phase 1.
All right, do we have a motion?
Are we getting contracts? I mean, signing off on these so they don't raise again?
Yeah, well, I'll defer to Harlan to the specifics of the process, but this
Okay.
essentially caps the principal amount of that
Okay.
amount.
Because I don't want the project to wait a whole nother year.
Yeah, we're ready
And then
to
raise this again.
proceed with the sanitary sewer, the water main, and the sanitary sewer internal.
And their bids, they're required to honor their bid for a period of time.
Yeah, right.
So we've taken, so that we're in that window, so we
Okay.
get this approved tonight, then we can, maybe at the next or following
It would
week,
be
we
in
can award it.
February, yeah.
So they're tied to that.
There's a 60-day,
Okay, perfect.
and that's part of why we
I make
threw
a
it all
motion
together.
that we approve this resolution.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second, any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Resolution 2311.
Item H10E is for the stormwater phase 1, and this resolution restates and repeals Resolution 2214, increasing the authorization amount from $1,430,000 to $1,865,000, which is a difference of $435,000. And the breakdown for the lot and block by the cost apportionments listed there. 100% paid by the improvement district, and it's recommended that the city council adopt the proposed resolution accepting the amended improvement petitions and authorizing the construction of the stormwater improvements for phase 1.
We have a motion,
I make a motion.
is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Carried.
Resolution 2312.
Item H11 is a resolution authorizing the offering of sale of the general obligation temporary notes for Series 2023-2, Big Arm Edition, and, pardon me, the Trails End supplemental issuance to Series 2022-2, general obligation temporary notes. Just laying some background there with Trails End series being $6,333,000 with the bids received in excess of the petition amounts. H10 increased that issuance amount to $8,076,000. Big Arm was presented earlier and authorized amounts totaling $952,000. And this is a breakdown from that authorization ordinance with these resolutions being updated after this evening. The resolution again selects and ratifies the engagement letter for Stiefel as financial advisor for the temporary notes, direct staff, bond counsel, and the placement, the financial advisor to prepare and distribute the preliminary official statement and to take the necessary actions to sell the temp notes within compliance of SEC and MSRB regulations. It authorizes the administrator to proceed with those documents in the principal amount of $3,060,000 for a 3-year term with payments in June and December of each month and a maturity date of December 1st, 2025. This is through the special assessment process, so the property owners within these two additions will be responsible for payment of the principal and interest charges on the temporary notes that will eventually be converted to general obligation bonds in the fourth quarter of 2025. It's recommended that the City Council adopt the resolution authorizing the
H11 recommendation.
Sounds good.
There we go. I adopt that resolution.
Make the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Resolution 2313.
Item H12, and I'll turn it over to Mayor Zimmerman, but he requested that I put together a framework for your discussion regarding the city council vacancy from Councilmember Proctor living outside of our city limits. And what you have there is just an announcement and a expression of interest form that was created for your review. The seat that is under discussion would be appointed to serve the balance of the term, which would be until January 6th or so, 2026, following the November 4th, 2025 election of that seat. The draft timeline would be consensus on the process this evening, with the announcement occurring tomorrow on social media and city webpage. And then again, this is working. We just had to start somewhere, so this is your thing. And at this point, turn it over to the bench.
Well, as part of the timeline, does it look acceptable to you, the council?
With the even number of council members and the fact that it can create a tie, tie vote, which I don't like. I don't know what you guys are thinking. I like the beginning part of the timeline where forms are due by the 13th, but I'm kind of thinking as they come in, if they could be dispersed to us for review, and then the 17th, if we could just have, whoever's interested here, and if we have questions for them, ask them questions, and then wrap it up then and make an appointment.
We would have to do it during its meeting though, right?
Yeah, which is the
It has to
17th.
be an open meeting, yes, sir.
I don't think it's gonna be that complicated of a process, with the form that we have, that you guys compiled, and I can't really think we're gonna have that many applicants, as we usually don't have many people run Savvy. So I don't, that's just my thought is I'd like, if we can wrap it up on the 17th, that'd be great, but I know we don't want to rush into just appointing somebody either, so.
Right. What do you think?
I think that sounds fair.
What do you think, Doug?
That's what you guys want to do.
And I can change that position announcement to state something along the lines of we'd ask the applicants to be present at the January 17th.
So they will assume, I guess, the seat on the 17th, whoever.
Whoever
If
you
we
would,
appoint and approve,
would,
or-
whoever the mayor would nominate and the body would then vote on. And failure to get a majority means that the item essentially is tabled.
Okay.
We
And
get a
those-
consensus on that, or?
For this schedule, yes, sir.
Well, that's the way we'll plan it then.
and those will go to Terry,
Yes.
and Terry will then just give them to us as soon
We'll
as she
scan
gets them.
them in PDF and email them to
Cool.
the council and the paper. And everything's an open record, so.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Item H13, and City Attorney Ryan Peck apologizes for not being able to attend this evening as he's ill. But he requested that you authorize the city attorney and city administrator to secure quick claims with Burlington Northern Santa Fe for $7,500 and the Collective Perez family for $7,500. On August 5th of last year, the council adopted the resolution declaring it necessary to acquire property for the construction of a new community center and any other public purpose. The council adopted the condemnation ordinance of the parcels on September 6th, 2022. And the specific property that we're talking about with respect to the quitclaim is here. It's this parcel right there. So as you know, there was a clouded title with Santa Fe listed, but then there being some Perez transaction that had never been ratified with the county. So by getting a quitclaim with both parties, we were willing to proceed. Ryan's conversation with BNSF, they were willing to, at $7,500 when Ryan consulted with the Perez family attorney, they were agreeable to that number collectively as well. So the city attorney requests authorization to execute an agreement to secure these parcels and finalize that quitclaim.
Right here pretty quick, I think the Prairie Travelers thought they owned it too, so.
Yeah, well, that wasn't on the, because Santa Fe
Not on
didn't even,
anybody's deed.
so Santa Fe didn't even know they owned it, because that's part of the delay, is we kept contacting them, first at the staff level, and then it took Ryan with the legalese and that condemnation to get them to finally kind of start responding.
So we need to make a motion to approve that?
It's just, yeah, it's a voice vote to authorize the city attorney and administrator to complete the quitclaim and property acquisition of lots 4, 5, and 6, block 16 of the Goddard Edition.
There we go.
So
4, 5,
moved.
and 6, block 16 of the Goddard Edition. I make one motion.
Second.
Motion second, discussion. All in favor, aye?
I
Aye.
breaking out the pirate eyes now.
This will be a quick report, as we've had a long evening. This is a view of the Starbond project, kind of looking back to the east and the progress on the water park, the child care facility, hotel and health club. The view of Arbor Creek, looking back to the west-southwest with the community building in the foreground. Progress on the construction within Elk Ridge. Progress there on Cloverleaf, third and final phase. Rusty Creek, looking back to the west-northwest. The duplexes there on Cedar and Main. that storage facility with 199th in the background, and then of course Cedar would be down here with this cul-de-sac coming in, and the Taco Bell and Pizza Hut to the north. And just showing kind of the progress there on the Trails End addition, with 23rd on the bottom of the image and 215th Street West, and the Dillon's Warehouse on the left-hand side. And just some upcoming agenda items, which will have a brief, I think we'll look at lightening some of this, as we'll have the interviews, but we will have the traffic cameras there at 199th and the controllers, as we have a failing sensor there. And we'll defer the growth encroachment to February at that time, as well as the goals. I think we'll see how many applications we get as to whether or not we'll have the year-end report. So if we are inundated, we'll just defer it one meeting.
Might as well throw them into the deep end.
Yeah.
Have we heard anything about the ARCA lately?
The plans have gone to KDOT, right, Harlan? And then we are, we've got the right-of-way. I need to get the application in here within the next 2 weeks, or one of the forms, I mean, not an application, on that right-of-way for the construction easement, because it's temporary.
If they haven't gone, it'll be this one. We're just finalizing, assembling everything. Sending it
They've been assembling forever.
So I'm trying to get a passport.
in. A lot of pieces to the puzzle.
Yeah.
All right, do anybody comments? Go ahead.
Well, this was an exciting night. I guess we'll see what happens with the planning commission. I guess I just want to tell you all that it's nice to have different opinions and listen. Not everybody thinks the same, but that's okay. That's all I have to say.
Sarah?
Yeah, interesting evening. Definitely one of the longest meetings I think we've had in a while. But I think it went well. I think we accomplished a lot and can move forward with what's good for Goddard and all of our community. I want to thank Aubrey and Keaton for coming tonight to kind of see how the process works, and all of y'all for hanging with us for the last 2.5 hours. That's what I got.
All right. Brent?
You know, you guys both said that very well.
I've learned. I've been here like 4 years, man.
Man,
Getting good at
that's
this.
so nice. That's nice. I'm gonna tell you what, though, everybody that showed up this evening, it's a good start of a good year.
Right?
So,
It was a lot less like eventful than the last time we had a crowd that big.
that's exactly right.
I didn't get yelled at.
They
this
were
time.
more pleasant.
Yes.
They were a little bit more pleasant.
I do have to.
And I really liked how you got up there and you gave your speech this time, because a lot of times you don't give that little speech that you give.
That was
And
helpful.
everybody gets mad when they didn't get their turn.
Yes.
So that was very good. You did a
job,
good
my
job.
Oh, you're welcome.
That's that a boy.
I'm happy to help.
Are you done?
I'm done. Yeah.
Well, sometimes I never know.
Good.
Well, I'd like to thank everyone that participated tonight in voicing their concerns, and that's what we're here for, to hear them. And I know we're one member short, and that weighs heavily on me, but also the fact that finding a good quality candidate, someone who has an independent way of thinking, who can think outside the box, but yet who isn't afraid to ask questions of staff or other council members, someone who's got a vested interest in the city, someone who has shown that they want to be part of the city by taking part in different organizations like the church where they come out and go through the community and things like that. Those are all things that I want to see, and hopefully whoever the candidate is will share in my goal to make Goddard a good, safe place that they can be proud to call home. That's all I have to say. And if that's finished up here, I guess we'll take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Adjourned.